Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody tuning in today. Supatease here with another PvP walkthrough, and in this one I'm going to be playing my most favorite balanced druid composition, that paired up with a frost mage and discipline priest. In this composition you bring a lot of crowd control and a lot of burst all at the same time, and I get to play with my favorite Azerite trait, battlefield focus. I recently found that a combination of Fury of Elune and Battlefield Focus can lead to a lot of crazy burst windows that you normally don't have for single target damage on a balanced druid. I definitely recommend running Fury of Elune in this composition, and if possible, all three members of the team running a Battlefield Focus trait. The damage will not show up on your damage, but it will show up on whoever's Battlefield Focus has procced. And in some matches, my priest's Battlefield Focus was upwards of 40% of his overall damage. It was pretty crazy, and it's a lot of unexpected damage that some teams aren't ready for. So you're going to see that showcased here. We are facing against a jungle cleave, a highly mobile, high burst, high crowd control composition. I'm going to be going through where I look for my windows of opportunity to attack and when I want to try and sit back and play defensive with my team. Of course, you want to start the game in stealth, and you're really waiting for the survival hunter's camouflage to end or for your partners to find them in stealth. So you're just trying to stay at the far edges of the map and waiting for the enemy team's stealth effects to fade off, in this case camouflage. They decide to open on the mage. I immediately move to the priest to crowd control the priest. This removes their healer, it puts them on their toes a bit, and it removes the extra damage that the priest adds to the fight. After I get the priest out of the game, I look to get my dots up. They were split in this position, so I wasn't looking to cyclone. I did not expect the hunter to be able to kill my mage so early on, especially during temporal shield. So my main focus is getting my dots rolling, getting crowd control on the priest, and now preparing for the next freezing trap. I did try to continue the chain with an entangling root solar beam. I do not recommend mass entanglement against this composition. With Master's Call and potentially the priest being a gnome, there are too many ways for them to counter that. I much prefer bash to secure cyclone. So now in this position, my healer is in a stun, into a fear, and they use Will of the Forsaken to break the crowd control. Now that my healer is no longer in crowd control and the hunter is in a position where he wants to be aggressive, right? His team is using Incarnation. His team is securing crowd control. They want to push out. So I pop an Incarnation of my own to try and counter pressure the other team while they're pushing in. This way they are less likely to run away. After seeing Barrier in the center of the arena traded out, that basically stops all damage, I opt to Cyclone the Feral Druid, get control of the situation towards the end of his Incarnation, then switching the Cyclone to the Hunter when the Feral trinkets and stunning the Feral on his trinket. And you always want to be doing damage as this composition. So even though we didn't have crowd control on the Priest until the Psychic Scream was landed just there, I was still just hammering out as much damage as possible because one of our win conditions is running the priest out of mana. Now we were positioned poorly here. We were standing on top of our healer. It got both of us in a Psychic Scream. I couldn't support the team, and they continued the chain. And as a result of that setup, we had to trade a powerful cooldown Ice Block, and we are likely to only get 2 of those in a match, so you do not want to make that mistake more than twice. You want to make it basically never. My mage has taken the priest under crowd control for quite a period of time, so we're rotting down both the Feral Druid and the Hunter, costing the priest more and more mana, and that's ultimately one of our win conditions. Here I see my priest in a stun, so I look for a Cyclone to try and stop any crowd control out, but they deny it by stunning me, and then I'm forced to use Barkskin and immediately go into bear form, use Renewal and Frenzied Regeneration to almost barely survive this attack. Whenever your healer is in crowd control, either your mage or yourself should be cycloning and polymorphing to slow down the damage until that freezing trap or stun on them has faded. Once out of that and once restabilized, look to get your dots up first and foremost. Your Sunfire and Moonfire are the first priority. The second priority is looking for Battlefield Focus procs. So right now, the Feral Druid has a Battlefield Focus proc on him, and I could use Fury of the Loon to try and burst him down with that proc. That's when you want to use Fury of Elune, is on a battlefield focused target, and usually with crowd control on the healer. So I do end up using it on the Feral Druid. It was delayed a bit. I should have used this much sooner. I was trying to get crowd control before doing it, but now as a result, my Fury of the Elune doesn't do too much other than burn more mana of the priest, which is still an important goal. My healer's in a freezing trap. I see that in the raid frame next to the white box, that blue box. That means he's freezing trapped. He can't heal, so I cast Cyclone on any target that doesn't have a trinket and is off diminishing return. Feral Druid had no trinket, was off diminishing return. I cast a Cyclone on him. As soon as that Cyclone is over, I cast Cyclone on the other partner to slow down the damage and let my priest recover. So you can see we've been bursting, we've been getting cooldowns, and we've been getting setup chains while still burning the priest's mana down quite effectively. So even if we can't execute a crowd control kill, we can still bank off the fact that he won't be able to heal through the damage. Here I cycloned outside of crowd control, more so to take advantage of the fact that the Feral Druid did not have a trinket. This will at least slow him down in his advances, as he needs to manage a lot of global cooldowns to keep bleed effects up on a target. So slowing him down, even not during the freezing trap there with no trinket, felt like more value. Then he moves in for a stun, which likely means the hunter wants to freezing trap, but even with just the stun, they were able to force another ice block. So now my mage is basically against the ropes. His two major ways of surviving is over, but we have the advantage that their priest is now completely out of mana. So at this point, it's really either team's game. I cannot afford to make a positional mistake. If I do, I will have to use my Gladiator's Medallion to trinket out. I use my Fury of Elune there with Battlefield Focus on the Hunter. I then bash him and dump all of my Star Surges in him while we've got the priest locked in crowd control, even if he wasn't out of mana in this position. And I look to continue the chain as the polymorph ends. For a fear, we do not have a bash in this position to chain, but we have Incarnation coming up here very shortly, and he has basically no mana left to heal. The Feral Druid has used his 2 Survival Instincts charges, so he is exposed now for the rest of the match. All we have to do is survive this next freezing trap or counter pressure them away. So I pop my Incarnation, my mage is already kited, they're too low health, and I didn't need to Cyclone because the threat of my Incarnation forced them to run away during that freezing trap, whereas Cyclones might not have been enough. The Feral Druid could have trinketed. So using Incarnation as a counter engage, when the enemy team gets crowd control on your healer, they want to be attacking. So you can Incarnation and they'll run away and not get the benefit of that crowd control, or they'll push in and potentially die. And this is when you want to time your Incarnations. Then they stack up, retreating back behind the pillar in desperation. So we look to attack all 3 targets because the priest has no more mana. He really can't handle the damage that we're doing, especially to so many targets. Then I Cyclone him and I dump out a couple Star Surges, chain the Cyclone into a bash. I start telling my partner potentially polymorph, but with Ray of Frost we have more than enough damage to finish the Hunter. So weaving between defensive play and offensive play, looking to position not near your partners as I did earlier in the match. You never want to stack up for any potential double Psychic Scream, or you don't want to stack up so that the Feral Druid can stun targets and then get back to the target immediately and start attacking. So look for a triangle position very far apart from each other. Try to cast Cyclones when your healer is in crowd control, or use your Incarnation as a counter engage, and you're going to have a lot better times against basically every composition in the game. Anyway, I had a lot of fun playing this composition. I definitely recommend it to you guys at home if you're Balanced Druid players, and I'm going to be doing a lot more of it. So I hope that you enjoyed the guide, and will consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell so that you can see when I go live. I make a video guide every single day. I'm going to be expanding the types of guides from just walkthroughs. I want to make a guide on how to find teammates, how to build a team, to a lot more other things along that lines, especially the 8.1 changes, and go over what's going to be the best so you guys can have that information as well. So please consider subscribing, please consider hitting the notification bell, and I will see you in the video tomorrow. Thank you, everybody.